Hello, everyone. Welcome to Uncovering Hidden Healing. I'm your host, Arletha Lizana, and I'm so glad you are here with us today. Every week on this show, we go looking for healing that has been hidden in plain sight in our traditions, in our ancestral wisdom, and the practices and modalities that most people have never heard of, but are quietly transforming lives all around us. That is what we do here. We uncover what has been buried. We shine a light on what has been overlooked, and we have a really good time doing it. So, season three is all about ancestral healing. The idea that healing is not something new we have to go find, it's something old we have to remember. Our grandmothers knew things, their grandmothers knew things. And somewhere along the way, a lot of that wisdom got buried. This season, we're digging it back up, one conversation at a time. So today's episode is one that I have been genuinely excited about since the moment I started planning this season. So we are talking about the body, specifically what the body is actually carrying, because here is something that might surprise you. Your body is not just yours, it's a living archive of everyone who came before you, the experiences, the grief, the survival, and yes, the gifts, the resilience, and the medicine of your entire lineage. It's stored right there in the body. Science is finally catching up to what our ancestors always knew. And the woman I have brought on today has been living and working in that intersection her entire career. So grab your favorite beverage, settle in, and get ready because this conversation is going to open something up. It's going to be great. So today I have the absolute pleasure of welcoming Mikki Bazurto-Greene to Uncovering Hidden Healing. Mikki is a globally recognized medical intuitive, medium, and energy therapist, and the founder of Life in Flow. She is a gifted healer, a wisdom keeper, and one of the most fascinating practitioners working at the intersection of body, spirit, and ancestral wisdom today. Now, I know some of you have just heard medical intuitive and you're thinking, okay, so what exactly is that? And that is the right question because medical intuition is one of those healing modalities that once you understand it, you generally cannot unknow it. And Mikki is going to help us understand it today. So, Mikki, welcome so much to Hidden Healing. We're so happy to have you here. So, before we dive into the deep end of today's conversation, can you share a little bit about yourself and help our audience understand what a medical intuitive actually does and all of the things that you are beyond being a medical intuitive?
So thanks for this opportunity, Arletha. I've been so excited since you mentioned it to me months ago. Um, well, you know how sometimes you feel stuck or uncertain or doubtful or you're unmotivated or you're feeling kind of down or depressed or anxious, and especially in these last few years under pressure, or something just isn't quite right, but you can't fully explain why. Well, that's where I come in. I help people see what's underneath what they're experiencing, whether that's stress, it's health issues, money, relationships, emotional patterns, phobias, fears,
Mhm.
even fertility, or just feeling off balance. And there's so many more things. Think of me as someone who's really good at reading the invisible layers of a situation. I notice the deeper patterns, the emotions, and even the old experiences. Sometimes not even from this lifetime. They may have come from a lifetime with your ancestors, but they may not have even come from your lifetime. They may have come from a lifetime even past your ancestors and you, a past life, even. Depending on your worldview, what's shaping what's going on now. So the old experiences can either be inherited or they can live in your soul. So
Mhm.
what my clients say is that I support them in ways that they can barely imagine, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and mentally. And what is I say is that I'm moving the obstacles and blocks that get in the way of you living a life that flows naturally with your body so that the streams of light and energy can re inhabit your body system. And this makes life way more easy and way more graceful.
Wow, wow, this is so interesting. So, like, Mikki, how does someone discover that they're a medical intuitive? Like, what was the moment or accumulation of moments that confirmed this was your path?
Um, I I've been doing this. I had my business for like called Life in Flow Energy Healing for about 10 years. The Life in Flow method, healing method, it was gifted to me by the universe and my own co-creative energies. It's a healing or energy modality that was transmitted to me so that I might give it to the world in support to healing the world's traumas,
Yeah.
as well as instilling more optimism and hope. So I've always been a natural born intuitive. So I believe everybody is naturally born in intuitive, but we kind of get it blocked throughout our lives. It's a hard world to live on earth. It's just so I commend everybody who's here because it's not an easy world to live in. But being a natural born intuitive, as far back as I can remember, the earliest memory I have as a little girl was being in my bedroom, and I love to read. And I was reading a book. I was probably 7 years old, and I heard someone crying. And I look across the room, and my closet door is slightly open, and there's a little girl. She's probably 3 years old,
Mhm.
crying, and she's wearing a really pink, beautiful party dress, but it's very old fashioned. And she's holding a handmade doll, and she's just weeping. And I am feeling in my heart so sad for her, and I want to help her. So I run downstairs to get my mom, and I said, "There's this little girl in my closet. You have to help. We have to help her because she's so sad." My mom comes up, and she's gone. Now she was a spirit girl, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
And what the best part that came out of that whole situation was my mom completely believed me and continued to believe me. And then I ended up, more than 30 years ago, marrying someone who also completely believed me. So that support that I had with the people that are closest to me was wonderful for setting me off toward this moment. And it is an accumulation of moments.
Mm.
It wasn't one moment. There were two women about, I want to say, 12 years, maybe 10 to 12 years ago, somewhere in that time frame, that were catalysts for me going into this work. And I can't get into great detail about
Mhm.
them, except to say one was a Catholic nun. And the reason I can't get into it is because she's been reported to the Catholic Church quite a few times
Yeah.
for doing this kind of work.
Wow. Yeah.
But she taught me
Mhm.
that I was supposed to be in it and doing it. She was already doing it.
Yeah.
Uh, and she has a great following of people. Um, the, Catholic Church at the top doesn't like the idea, but she's a woman in the Catholic Church making it happen. So
Wow.
I love that. And then the second person who was a catalyst for me, she was a close friend and endured a horrible tragedy.
Mhm.
And in that horrible tragedy, I was told by my spirit guides, by my creator, that I needed to go on a certain pathway. And that's what ended up leading me into medical intuition.
Wow. Wow. That is like a tremendous, like, wow. It's just great. I really love that, and like, and what I notice is the gift often shows up before the framework, like before the language, like before anybody tells you what to call it. Is just, ancestral gifts and spiritual gifts, it just is, right? And it's so great that you had support, for that, and people believed you, and so I think that, encouraging you, really to kind of go deeper and understand that this was your path. So this is really great. So like, let me bring in some science for a minute. So because this is where my public health brain gets very excited. So there's a field called epigenetics. It's the study of how our experiences, our stress, our environment can actually alter gene expression in ways that get passed down to the next generation. So what our grandmothers went through left the biological mark on their DNA that was passed to our mothers and then to us. So, this is peer reviewed science. And so our ancestral traditions have been saying that for thousands of years. So, from your perspective as a medical intuitive, like, what is the body actually holding? And like, how does that happen? Like, what are we talking about here in terms of like the body, emotional memory, ancestral imprints, like energetic, whatever you can tell us about that.
So before I answer that question about what
Mhm.
does the body hold, there's two important things I think most people need to know. And kind of believe in before they get to the next step, which is that everything around us is energy.
Mhm.
Everything. The rock, the fan in my window, the animal, your pet, everything is energy. The wind is energy. Fire is energy. So that's important
Mhm.
um, to remember. And the other part is that energy is neither created or destroyed, but it rather transforms itself. So we are always sending energy out and pulling energy in as a human body. And when I say, I tell all my clients this, I'm not dealing with just your body, your physical body. I'm also dealing with your spirit, your emotions, and your mentality, or your brain, or what you're thinking. So the body is a felt record of everything that we've ever experienced. And the soul is part of the body, and the soul brings with it all of its experiences, even if it wasn't just this lifetime. It's also bringing select experiences from your ancestors. So the
Mhm.
body remembers everything, but it doesn't remember it as a story, which is a mind thing. It remembers it as a sensation. And the body includes the energy field around it, which is always contracting and expanding. So your energy, or your biofield, or your auric field around you can be pulled in close to your body,
Mhm.
but most days it's about the same length as when you put your arms out. And some people have auric fields that go out as far as 10 feet. And you're in charge of that. You can help your energy field go in and out. And you're actually unconsciously doing it depending on the situation. The body in the energy field remembers what safety feels like and what it doesn't feel like. And it remembers how it shapes itself to survive, or it had to shape itself to survive. So, what the body holds is, am I safe here? Am I safe to be seen? Am I safe to be ignored? Am I safe to express my grief, my anger, my happiness, my fear, my confidence? Am I safe to be loved? Another thing that the body holds is, do I need to brace? Protective patterns like guarding your heart, hyper alert nervous systems, which we actually have a lot of in the world right now. A lot. I have a lot of clients with hyped up nervous systems, and I can explain later what that means. Shallow breathing, tight trapezius or shoulder muscles, sometimes tight muscles in other parts of the body, like the calves. And the third thing that the body can hold is, where can I soften up and relax?
Mhm.
So the body holds memories through the nervous system, and the body remembers how it felt, what it meant to survive, and what it needed to get through. It can show up in a heart that races, a stomach that tightens, sudden fatigue, or patterns of overgiving, withdrawing, or overperforming. And these are adaptations. And essentially, all people have these. They're actually smart adaptations, I have to say. Issue is when it keeps running way too long after the threat is gone. So, yeah.
Yeah, wow. Wow, yeah. That is so amazing, like,
Yeah, and you mentioned epigenetics too.
yeah, yeah.
Epigenetics, we're learning now through epigenetics, the body doesn't just carry our own experiences, it carries adaptations from the generations before us. And in my work, as I think you've experienced, is I am very good at going in and seeing the locks on the epigenetic or the genetic areas, and then opening those locks up and releasing them.
Mhm.
This could have been a good example is my clients that are Irish, Irish American. Not
Mhm.
all of them, but some of them came during the Great Potato Famine, and they literally had families that were starving to death, and oftentimes would have lost younger members of the family because there wasn't enough food, and they watched that, and it was very traumatic. So
Mhm.
what happens is there was a lock on some of their genes around, I can eat this piece of food, and I will blow up and gain a ton of weight
Mm-hmm.
because I am starving.
Right.
And that's locked onto their genes. And so when you can unlock that, and then suddenly the more dormant parts of their body that would have been operating if they'd had a steady flow in their ancestry will start to operate well. So epigenetics shows us that stress and trauma can shape our genes, and those patterns can be passed down. It doesn't get passed. Here's the funny thing: you'd think that it would get passed down from mother or father to child,
Mm-hmm.
and then child to the next child, and then to the next generation if it doesn't get healed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it skips over.
Yeah.
It can be a grandparent that has the issue, and then it skips down to second or third generation later,
Mm-hmm.
mostly because um, if it hasn't been healed, either here on this earth or on the other side, it still has to get healed. And then the energy of it, like I said, energy doesn't get created or destroyed, it just gets
Right.
transformed.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I see in my work is these patterns that show up emotionally, relationship wise, and in nervous system responses that people can't quite explain why it's happening to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
That's so interesting. Like I said, in terms of like, skipping a generation or, some time. But the energy, like you said, it has to, wasn't created or destroyed, is there. So, like you said, it has to be healed. So that's really interesting. And most of the healing conversations we have, focus on what was passed down that hurt us. So like the trauma, the grief, the unprocessed pain. But I wanted to kind of just really understand, like, what did our ancestors pass down that sustained them? So the resilience, spiritual attunement, extraordinary capacity for healing, that kept generations of Black women alive under conditions that were designed to destroy them. So, what are some ancestral protective factors do you perceive in the body, and what does that look like when you encounter it?
so our bodies are, as you said, our bodies are living libraries of survival, of brilliance and devotion. And because I work with everybody from the child who's in the womb to the 92-year-old, that's the oldest I've worked with. I work with people in Japan, in Hong Kong, in Latin America, in Europe, in Africa, um, in East Europe, and in the United States and Canada, and in the Caribbean. I can name a lot of places that I work. And what I find is that everybody has a body that's a living library of survival, brilliance, and devotion. And then there's our souls. Our souls are going from lifetime to lifetime, and they're carrying with them the learnings, all the good things, as well as all the negative things. So African American bodies are carrying a remarkable ability to shift states, to move quickly from stress to humor, and humor is a big deal. I mean, humor and movement are big deals in the African American community. It has helped them to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And they move from that stress to that humor to the connection into action
Mm-hmm.
very quickly. And they
Mm-hmm.
also are very good at reading subtle cues for safety and belonging.
Mm-hmm.
So, music, we know, sound and light and rhythmic movement are very, very important to healing. Music, whether we're humming while we're cleaning the house or we're singing collectively, singing collectively is very, very, very powerful. While we're working at church, while we're at church, or whether we're at home with the family, or whether we're in a chorus,
Mm-hmm.
or even if we're out in the garden singing and somebody else comes out and sings with us,
Right.
all of that regulates your nervous system.
That's right.
And
Mm.
dancing allows us to shake it off.
Yeah.
So it's the idea of I can discharge, I can express, and I can come back to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And animals are really good at that. They are very instinctive about that. And this is part of what African American bodies do hold, is this level of resilience that actually is very vital right now in our country. As things fall apart around us, our resilience is outstanding. And other people are watching and seeing it. Whereas we may have been ignored before,
Yeah.
now we are, the ripple effects of our resilience are going out there. So it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Storytelling, a whole level of goodness around food, creative languaging,
Mhm.
making up your own way of
Mhm.
expressing yourself and creatively. Uh, Cultural memories that are passed down through storytelling from generation to generation. All of that segues, that energy segues right into I have endured and created.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so these are all lessons that others in our country need to learn. And
Mhm.
that is part of the reason African American women are here in
Mhm.
this country.
Yes, sir. Oh, we're
Yeah.
gonna get into that in 1 second. We're gonna get right into African American women. But it just reminded me of like two quick examples. One, the movie Sinners, which I love. That whole scene with the dancing and the dancing across generation and ancestral, it was so powerful. Like the dancing together, and then just over time, it was just beautiful. And the other thing was just like a lot of line dancing. So you see a lot of African Americans doing group line dancing now, and people are like, how are you guys line dancing and the world is crumbling? It just reminded me of that.
Because you're processing the trauma of it, and then you're shaking it off so
Yeah.
that you can come back to your center, to your balance, so that we can be. And I got a big download this morning when I was in meditation, and they were telling me some things that I was going to talk about today. And they were saying, just remind them that the African American men and women and children that were brought over here, their soul made a contract
Mhm.
that they would come here and they would endure this over a 400 period
Mhm.
year plan.
Mhm.
It was a plan, but
Mhm.
only the soul knew that, not our conscious bodies, or we would never done that, right?
Right. Right.
But they
Mhm.
came over and they said, we're going to do this because we are going to be a part of a catalyst that will break down this old trauma stuff that came out of Europe,
Mhm.
and that we will be part of the plan that makes it better.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So, okay, let's get into it. So, we were saying the reason, why Black women are here. So, the question I had is like when you work with Black women specifically, so what do you perceive is different from what you see, with other clients? And then what are Black women's bodies carrying that is distinct? And I guess you can loop in like why we're here. Yeah.
So, in essence, Black women's biology is really not different from other people's biology. I
Mhm.
work with the Japanese, I work with Chinese, I work with all kinds of different Vietnamese. I work with people from Europe, people from South America, indigenous peoples. Their biology is not different from others, and neither is their energetic architecture, because we're all humans. However, the patterns carried in African American women's bodies are deeply layered. So they're carrying both chronic vigilance,
Mhm.
that was their way of surviving, and resilience. So they're carrying both of them. So they're carrying suppression, because it was, you had to be very careful about what you said and who you said it to,
Mhm.
and extraordinary capacity.
Right.
They're also carrying protection and deep relationship intelligence. So they're carrying both of these. That's a big job. I mean,
Yeah.
really big job. But it's also, because they're able to do that, they can be an example to the rest of the world.
Mhm.
Um, they're also carrying in those layers, those deep layers that I just talked about, um, kind of a strength suppression paradox.
Mhm.
So there's less permission to be soft,
Mhm.
dependent, and visibly vulnerable.
Mhm.
Um, they're also carrying a lot of heat. And this is in Chinese astrology, this is the year of the fire horse.
Mhm.
The fire horse is about heat and not inflammation, but driving forward.
Mhm.
A horse, oftentimes, when it starts running, it doesn't look any on the sides, it just runs straight
Yeah.
ahead.
Mhm.
So there's a strong fire quality in the air right now, a drive, endurance, and forward movement. And that is great if you're ready for it.
Mhm.
Um, but it can also, in Black women, it can cause hypertension
Mhm.
and uterine fibroids and things that are fueled by inflammation. A body that runs hot but rarely gets to cool off, rest, and dislodge. So, Black women have to find ways that they can just slow down,
Mhm.
rest, cool off, let go, discharge something. Because
Mhm.
there are deep somatic imprints there that I must endure, I
Mhm.
must not break, and others depend on me. So
Absolutely.
that's what I see. So Black women's bodies can carry patterns of compressed strength,
Mhm.
inherited vigilance, and profound resilience, paired with this deep, often unmet need to rest, to
Hmm.
feel safe, to
Mhm.
be held.
That's right. That's right. That's so deep to me. And when we look at Black women and just what's going on, it just seems like Black women are just so hated. Just this like systematic, trying to destroy Black women, and also like you said, expecting us to be strong, and not letting us rest and not letting us go into our softness. It's just very like the time period is very difficult, and I'm sure it's not that it wasn't difficult before, it just seems that,
Well,
additionally difficult, I should
I
say.
think Black women might want to remember,
Hmm.
myself included, because I'm part of this, like
Hmm.
not resting well and
Hmm.
not feeling safe all the time. Is even though there's that hatred directed at us, there's hatred directed at everybody right now.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter who you are. It's just before it was hidden. Now it's blatant.
Hmm.
So, and it's a small group of people. Remember, it is a small group of people. And that's what Black women have to, because the way it's being broadcast, it makes it sound like it's a lot of people thinking
Against
it's
us.
not.
Yeah.
It's not. It's
Hmm.
not. And so I want people to know that it's a small group of people trying to be as loud as possible and look like they're big, but they're very small and
Hmm.
they're not that important. And the energy, the resilient energy, and there's also people will be jealous of someone who's resilient.
Yeah.
That takes some effort. And it
Mm.
takes some effort when you have people trying to building this for 400 years, right?
Right.
And so you're going to get the haters and the jealousy people because they're going to do that regardless. It could be you have more money,
Yeah.
you have more children, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
more education. It could be anything.
Yeah.
So it's happening across the board with multiple things, not just skin
Mhm.
color.
Yeah, yeah.
So
No,
I
I
want
totally,
people
I
to know
totally
that.
get that. Yeah. And I think, like we said, I think you touched on some things. It's the jealousy and also the resilience. Because think about it, for all the things that have happened, to Black people, African Americans, just people of African descent around the world, like technically we probably shouldn't be here, but that people are thriving in that. They have been able to educate families, be able to buy property, be able to feed themselves, and the fact that we're still here. I think that's like, if a group of people, even small group of people, try to destroy you and you're still here, you know what I mean? Like you said, it speaks to that resilience. I agree.
Yeah, that resilience is magnificent. It is actually a teaching lesson for
Mhm.
all Americans.
Yeah.
And some people are getting it because I've heard some people talk about,
Yeah.
wow, they're so now I can see how resilient they are.
Hmm. Yeah.
So the fact that people are seeing it means there's groups of people out there that are not African Americans that are
Hmm.
supporting
Hmm.
this.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's go a little bit deeper into your work, so, talk about what you do, how you encounter your clients. And even if you can give us a story or an example without, identifying anybody specifically, but like a story or an example between like, and someone that had like an ancestral experience and physical symptoms, or like, what does that look like in your practice? So kind of just like walk us through what you do and what that looks like. Yeah.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is, so what actually happens when you work with me?
Mhm.
Um, so we start with whatever you're dealing with. So I'm going to make this stuff up
Okay.
because I've dealt with everything you can possibly imagine, everything.
Yeah.
Why do I keep stubbing my left toe?
Mhm.
Why do I keep getting into car accidents?
Yeah.
Why am I so exhausted and I'm doing everything right?
Mhm.
Why does my body keep reacting this way?
That's right.
Why do I feel so anxious day and night? Why does am I not making money? All kinds of questions. So it is nothing because I work with the body, the mind, and the spirit. I'm not working with only the physical body.
Mhm.
So instead of just analyzing it mentally, which is what we're taught to do in our culture, I tune into the pattern behind it, the energetics, the emotional, spiritual, and physical imprints that are keeping it in place. And then together, we work um, to bring awareness to what's been hidden,
Mhm.
to gently unwind what's stuck, and then to create space for your system to reset itself. So, what I tell people is I'm speaking with your body, mind. I'll often say to the client, I'm speaking to your body, but what I'm really doing is speaking to your soul, your body, your mind, and your spirit
Mhm.
silently in my head.
Yeah.
And I hear and see the answers to my questions. So I'm a very, very strong at seeing and hearing. I also can know things and I also can taste and smell things,
Mhm.
but I really see and hear very clearly.
Mhm.
So sometimes the body, mind, spirit only wants to be heard, and the healing begins at that point. Other times we have to shift energy and move it around. And this is not something like I do every day on the street. And I would never, never, never do this with anyone who didn't give me full permission to do it,
Mhm.
because that's part of my ethical way of working, which is you have free will and you need to say, yes, this is what I want.
Mhm.
So once we've located all the issues that are happening in their body, and the body tells me them in the right order, it tells me in the order in which they should be healed. So somebody might come to me and say, I have really horrible migraines, or I have cancer,
Mhm.
or I keep breaking my left ankle. Like it's the fifth time I've broken my left ankle. And so what I do is I talk to the body and I say, okay, what do we need to work on first? And the body will usually tell me, oh, it has nothing to do with the left ankle.
Yeah.
It's about this other thing.
Mhm.
And once she fixes this other thing, then the left ankle will resolve itself. So so the body's talking to me.
Mhm.
And sometimes I'll say to the body gives me a one-liner, or
Mhm.
it shows me a little cartoon character. Sometimes I see things in all kinds of different ways.
Yeah.
And I'll say, oh, should I ask the client about this? And the body will say, oh, yes, ask her if she knows about it. Or
Mhm.
no, she doesn't know about this part. But if you say it this way, she'll understand what it means. So
Mhm.
that's the way I'm dealing with the body.
Right.
Once we've located all the issues, the body is wise enough to know when to stop so
Mhm.
that the energy shifting work doesn't overwhelm you, and it'll often tell me what needs to be done. It's usually dictated by what's going on and what gets healed first, what gets healed second, what's third. And then it'll also tell me, should we work together again? I tell most people this is not a one shot stop.
Mhm.
You know, my job is to remove the obstacles and blocks, but if you've been building them up for 20 years, we might have to work more than a few times.
Mhm. Yep.
Most people need 3 to 12 times to eradicate everything.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so that's, I hope that helped.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, no, that does help. So do you have like a favorite story, like I said, de-identified, but a favorite healing story that you had with a client and, I don't
I have hundreds. So the hardest
know.
part for me was
Yeah.
trying to pick out which one. But
Yeah.
I know that today we're talking a lot about, and I have a lot of African American clients, but I have clients from all over the world. But
Mhm.
um, I'm thinking of, and these, by the way, these people have given me permission to talk about my work with them. I had a client who was an artist, and her husband owned a restaurant,
Mhm.
and well, I take that back. They eventually owned a restaurant. She
Mhm.
was a child care worker working for a preschool.
Mhm.
She desperately wanted to get pregnant and had heard through the work that I had done, I'd helped 3 or 4 other people actually have children who
Mhm.
were having fertility issues.
Mhm.
And so she came to me, and I I immediately knew that within a couple sessions she wasn't going to have children.
Mhm.
But I didn't understand why. Her body kept saying she wasn't going to. And I was like, wow, I can't tell her that, because that was just like blow her mind right now. It's not the right time. So we kept working together because there were other things too we were working on, not just that. But that was her main thing. She would get jealous when the moms and the parents would come pick their kids up,
Mhm.
and she's caring for these kids.
Yeah.
And she didn't like that feeling. So she wanted to move that away and see if she could get pregnant. Well,
Mm-hmm.
come to find out, one day, probably the third or fourth time I was working with her, all of a sudden I see this flash right in front of her body. It's a scene, and there's a huge river. I mean, it's so big you can barely see across it. And there's a woman standing in the water, and the water's flowing really fast around her legs.
Mm-hmm.
She's up to the top of her calves there.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a figure out in the middle of the river, just standing in the middle of the river. She's standing pretty far back, and she's raised her hands up, and she says, God, why have you forsaken me?
Mm-hmm.
Why have you taken my children? And I'm like, wow, this is intense. And then the scene was gone. And I could see and hear that this woman, she had gone with her husband out into the fields to work, left
Mm-hmm.
their 5 children at home, and all 5 children had drowned in this flood.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that it was an enemy ship that came down, and it was in Egypt, and it was the Nile River, and an
Mm-hmm.
enemy ship had blocked it up,
Mm-hmm.
and all her children had drowned. So I described this to her, and she said, oh my goodness, that is a dream that I've been having my entire life,
Wow.
except that the form of the person that's standing in the middle of the Nile River walks up to me with an electric blue baby, puts it in my arms, and it kisses me right here on the cheek and leaves a hieroglyph.
Wow.
So that part so
Yeah.
we were like seeing the same past
Yeah.
life, right?
Yeah.
Come to find out, we keep working together, and within probably 3 or 4 more sessions, we discover that her children actually have come back to her. In that lifetime, she was very upset with God for taking her children away.
Mm-hmm.
And she blamed God and was determined, I am going to get back those children.
Yeah.
And lifetime after lifetime, I don't know how much of that happened
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't see those lifetimes. In this lifetime, her mother, her husband, and her stepson were 3 of her children from that lifetime.
Yeah. Wow.
So we determined that she had gotten back, and we had names. I mean, we got the names in
Mm-hmm.
Egyptian for those children. And then 2 of her children hadn't come back yet. But I said, I was told that they would
Mm-hmm.
come into her life some way so that she would get back all 5 of her children, but not in the way she thought.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I think that's a good ancestral,
It
it's not
is.
like it's a past life ancestral kind of
Yeah.
what my
Yeah.
soul has gone through.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I have other, I have a ton of other stories, but
Mm-hmm.
that's one that really stood out in my head because it happened early in my career. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Wow. Yeah, wow, that was a really great that's really great. And like the information, and like you said, it's just not the way you think it would end, you know what I mean? So, and just like being able to receive that information, and then like you said, the client was having those dreams, it's just like wow, all of that together. That's awesome. Let's see. Okay, let's see. I wanted to talk about a couple of things kind of like together, but like chronic medical dismissal. So, Black women being told over and over again that their pain is not real, being sent home without answers, kind of like what does that do to the body over time? And then also, I kind of want to combine it to like Black women are often trained to override their own knowing. So they'll know something is going on, but to wait for external validation before trusting what their body is already saying. So, kind of like what do you see in the body, over time between this chronic medical dismissal and like Black women overriding their own knowing. And then like, how does that signal in the body? And then, like what shifts, like how do we stop doing that? Yeah.
So some of that is American and cultural and Western, right? Some of that's part of our cultural and Western way of being, which it teaches you to doubt yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and then to look to the authority for the information. So some of that is cultural because I see that in many other cultures, not just Black women.
Right.
Um, But the good news is that Black women's bodies, oh, because we've endured it over a long period of time, like 400 years period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So the good news is that the Black woman's body upregulates.
Mm.
Um, the more strength comes about, more endurance and more responsiveness. Now, I would, I would mm, venture to say that over 400 years, there's some women that didn't survive that.
Mm-hmm.
Their bodies didn't upregulate. They didn't get stronger. They didn't get more enduring, more responsive. And so they didn't survive.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones that are here today, they needed to survive. So they're unfortunately, they're quietly taxed from the inside out. So
Mm-hmm.
this is where our healing has to happen from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but deep love is present.
Yes.
Our access to that deep love is guarded. So we'll learn. I mean, the kind of learning that we have to do is nothing compared to all the other kind of Americans who are also, especially white Americans, who are trying to learn what they have to learn. Their lessons are way bigger.
Yeah.
So so that's, I guess, the good part. So you also talked about Black women being dismissed in clinical settings. I think the result is it depends on the person.
Mm-hmm.
Some will take that dismissal very personally, but some will become resilient and determined to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And there's everything in between.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's more of a personal thing that happens.
Mm-hmm.
I think Black women keep going. They have this thing in them that says, keep going, just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
That's resilience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. So, like, what is the relationship between your work and your work as a medical intuitive and like Western clinical care? Like, can they work together? And
Well,
how?
I believe they can. I believe they can work together. I actually was invited, oh, probably 9 years ago. There was a fellow, he's from Australia and he's white. His name is Charlie Goldsmith. He had a show on, I think it was net. I don't know if it was, I think it was Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not there anymore, but it was called The Healer.
Mm-hmm.
And before he started the show, he was looking for healers in a network of people. He wanted to get a group going who were tested healers, who knew what they were doing, that could support his goal to bring Western clinical care into the medical, intuitive, and healing things so that it became out here in California, acupuncture is completely accepted as
Mm-hmm.
part of Western care.
Mm-hmm.
So that medical intuition and healing could also be just as well accepted as acupuncture is
Mm-hmm.
out here in the Western clinical model.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Let me tell you, I have a lot of doctors who come to me.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
have a lot of psychiatrists,
Yeah.
talk therapists,
Mm-hmm.
life coaches who come to me. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, I believe it's coming. It's a slow process. I am part of this group with Charlie Goldsmith. It went dormant for a long time, but it just resurrected itself in the last 6, 7 months. And I'm on the list of this group as a certified healer. And he works around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another way in which I think we're going to move toward making medical intuition and healing a normal part of the Western clinical care.
That's right. I'm so excited for that. That would be awesome. So, for someone watching today who has never worked with a medical intuitive and wants to start developing a relationship with their own body's intelligence, what is like one practice they can begin right now? Like something simple, accessible, something that will work for them.
Well, I could give you one, but here's the thing,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's different.
Mm-hmm.
So if I give you one thing,
Mm-hmm.
it might work for some people, but not everybody, because every human body is so unique. And that's what I love about what I do. When I'm working with someone one on one, I can see, oh, they need this and this. Right now, what I'm seeing generally as a trend out there is super tangled, dysregulated nervous systems.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, one of the exercises I can give you for that, which I think is better because I'm getting that 80% of our population is nervous system dysregulated.
Mm-hmm.
So take your thumbs and make little circles like this.
Mm-hmm.
So one, your thumb is over the nail bed of your pointing finger.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to put them at the temples
Mm-hmm.
and lay your hands across, partially on your hair line and partially on your forehead.
Mm-hmm.
This is designed to calm down your nervous system. And breathing is super important,
Mm-hmm.
getting oxygen into your body and into certain places, because when our system is dysregulated, we're probably breathing in a very shallow way.
Right.
So, breathing in through the nose, breathing out through the mouth for a longer breath out, like you're breathing out of a straw. And we can do that for however long you want, a minute, 5 minutes a
Mm-hmm.
day, or whenever you're feeling your nervous system. Um,
I
I
love that.
just thought of another one if you want me to go through it. It's pretty
Yeah.
easy. And it's just sitting quietly
Mm-hmm.
with your hands open and just taking the same kind of deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. And then being very quiet and still and paying attention to the temperature around you.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention to the sounds around you. Do you hear the sound of the fan? The sound of a breeze blowing past you? Or the feel of a breeze blowing past you? Is it cool? Is
Mm-hmm.
it warm? Do you feel the tension in your shoulders? Do you feel a little twinge in one of your toes? Do you feel a relaxed feeling maybe in your belly? And what you're doing is you're training yourself to look to listen to your body, essentially, to hear what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do that for 5 minutes a day. And you're basically doing a little bit of training, because as we rush through our day and we do all the things like driving and eating and getting ready for bed and returning a phone call and thinking a lot, whatever it is, we're oftentimes not listening to our body.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more we listen to our body, the more we'll be in tune. Our body's always talking. We're just not always listening.
Excellent. That's true. That's true. Wow, that was powerful. That was really good. I feel super calm right now. You
Yeah.
know.
It, what it does is we're oftentimes, especially Black women,
Mhm.
releasing cortisol.
Yes.
Releasing cortisol doesn't. It's only good when, and I laugh about this. I have
Mhm.
this picture of, remember that old movie where the Pillsbury Doughboy is coming down the street, the giant one, and
Yeah. Yeah. I think
everybody's
it's
panicking.
Ghostbusters.
And
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
screaming. I think it's Ghostbusters, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what cortisol is good for. Like when that's happening,
Yeah.
most everything else that's happening in our life doesn't mean we need to release cortisol,
Mm-hmm.
because it too much of it's going to destroy parts of your body.
Mm-hmm.
So this will help. That exercise will help with bringing the cortisol, and because we overthink a lot in this society, too much thinking, this helps bring that cortisol out of the brain and down and distribute it evenly and releasing out of the body.
Releasing it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. So, I mean, all of this is so great. First question just popped up, like, how does the cortisol get released? Let me ask that real quick, and
Well,
then ask some other questions.
um, it's releasing, and I'm not a doctor, so
Yeah.
there's probably more to this than what I know.
Uh-huh.
But there is a like a triangle between your pituitary gland, your adrenals, which are on top of
Mhm.
your kidneys.
Mhm.
When we let's see, a triangle. So the pituitary gland, the hypothalamus, which is in the
Mhm.
brain,
Mhm.
and the adrenal glands. And
Mhm.
there's like a little triangle, and it's sending messages constantly, constantly. Oh, there's the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Yeah.
Activate, get ready
Yeah.
to run, or
Right.
do whatever you have
Activate.
to do
Yeah.
to save yourself.
Yeah.
But it also, sometimes we can get into the point where, let's say our child says something to a smart aleck, and
Mm,
we have the exact same reaction as if the
yeah.
Pillsbury Doughboy is coming
Mm,
down the road.
yeah.
Not applicable.
Exactly.
They're not the same,
It's not
and
the
but our
same.
body's acting the same. So that's how it's released,
Mhm,
is in that triangle of communications
mhm,
between the adrenal glands. And once again, I'm not a doctor, so I might
mhm.
be missing parts of this.
Yeah, no
The
problem.
hypothalamus and the pituitary gland.
Wow, wow. Okay, so I have a few questions, and these are like, kind of community questions, things that people want to know. And so just a few of these. So one question is, can you feel the difference between something that is coming from a person's own lifetime versus something that is like ancestral? You know, and
Absolutely.
can you tell where it originated? Like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
If I'm dealing with an African, I have an African American client, and she's allowed me to tell this story.
Mm-hmm,
We've been working together for 7 years,
mm-hmm,
and she's amazing, amazing. All my clients are amazing people, amazing. But she's a very elevated soul.
mm-hmm,
But I think we were 3, 4, 5 sessions in, when all she kept saying, I have to live in a warm climate. I cannot be in the cold. She grew up in the cold, and it was it's so important to her. It's visceral. It would
mm-hmm,
make her whole body like
mm-hmm.
change. And apparently she was a white woman in Germany in another lifetime
Yeah.
during Nazi times.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
she tried to stand up for the Jews that they were like mass murdering in her small village.
Mm-hmm,
And the ground was frozen.
mm-hmm,
And so it wasn't just the cold that bothered her, it was the coldness of what she saw. Her whole family turned on her, her husband, her children, when she was trying to do the right thing.
yeah. Yeah, that's right.
And she vowed to then, in every other lifetime after that, do the right thing. So yes, I can tell the difference between, because she's black in this lifetime, she's
Yeah.
not German,
Yes.
white,
Yep.
but her soul experienced that.
Yeah.
She fights for justice like you wouldn't
Mhm,
believe.
mhm,
She fights for her family like you wouldn't believe.
mhm.
And she took all the learnings from that, and she made sure she lived a life that was exactly what she would have wanted to do then and could not do.
Yeah, yeah.
But yes, sometimes I'll give another example of one
Mm,
where I
mm,
did know that it was in the family.
mhm,
I had a client, and he had this dark cloud around him.
mm,
And he would get rid of it at points, but it would just keep coming back. And he was like, what is going on? Nothing in his life explained it.
yeah.
And all of a sudden, as I'm talking to his body, I see one of his ancestors. And this ancestor is like, I want to say it's a second, or I can't remember, it's been such a long time, second or third great grandfather.
Mhm,
And he's gay.
mhm.
Now, we're talking 1800s, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
He's also a slave.
Mhm, mhm,
And he nothing in his life resembles anything about the way he wants to be.
mhm,
He doesn't understand this gay thing. He can't be who he is as a soul.
mhm.
Everything is just, there's debauchery everywhere around him, and he absorbs this, and he does some crazy
Mm.
stuff, some
Yeah,
real crazy stuff.
yeah.
This was the energy that had jumped from this guy all the way to his great 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 grandson. And so what we did was we went in, and we went to that soul, you know, in another dimension, another
Mhm,
time. We healed that and cleared that. And then we cleared the connection of the energy between
mhm,
my client and his ancestor.
mhm.
And his whole life, my client's whole life changed.
Wow, I'm just like blown away. Like that's a
I'm
lot
blown
because
away.
people, but yeah, they don't even realize. Well, it's two things. One, you said one. I think some people will be like, oh, really interesting to watch them, as you say that their ancestor or their previous life, they may not have always been an African American. That's one thing. So I think that people think that they're always the same in different lives. But
No.
then the other thing that, things that, happen to your ancestors or how your ancestors live and how they can affect you in this life, I think that's so profound. And the healing, like you said, that can happen. And you say it changed this person's life, to be able to tap into that. And if they had not come to you, would they have been able to, they wouldn't have
Yeah,
known.
well, they may have, and
Mhm.
because I'm not the only, right, I'm not the only one. There's other ways to heal. We all know that, right?
Mhm.
You can heal by being in nature. You can heal by following your life purpose. There's
Mhm.
all kinds of ways to do it,
Yeah.
but it might have been this much,
Mm.
whereas the work that we did went to the root cause.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what happens in this Western culture kind of world we're in, we tend to say, is there something I'm doing wrong? Why is
Mm-hmm.
this dark cloud on me? Is something
Yeah.
I'm doing wrong? What's wrong with me?
Mhm.
Or if they're not doing that, they're blaming it on somebody else outside of them in the reality they believe they're in. They're
Mhm.
not seeing that the root cause is coming from way over here.
Yeah, that's wow. That is so profound to me. So, let me just add to this then. So, what do you do if you perceive something in a client's field that they're not ready to hear? Like how do you decide what to share and when? Like, what do you do with that?
I do that every once in a while.
Mm.
I'm very, as you know me, I'm very straightforward and very much wanting to tell the truth. I'm a very much, but I am very careful and try to be very graceful about where people are at and what they can take. It's usually with sexual assault
Mm-hmm.
that I have to be the most careful because sometimes people have been sexually assaulted before they even remember it, like when they were 1 or 2. They
Mm-hmm.
don't, but it's in their body, but they don't remember it. So
Mm-hmm.
in that case, I'm going to ask the body, is this something that I should tell her or him?
Mm-hmm.
I'll also ask my spirit support, is this something that this person can handle? I always go with that, not
Mm-hmm.
my personal opinion, but what I hear the actual human that I'm in front of saying, and then what even their guidance sometimes will come in, and I'll listen to what their guidance says,
Yeah.
as well as my own guidance. And it's only been a small percentage of people. Usually, if you've been sexually assaulted before the age of 3, you might not remember it. Your body would have shut it down,
Right.
but it's still living in you, or
Mm.
I wouldn't have picked it up.
Right.
Or sometimes, one time I had a situation where I was working with a young college student, and her mom wanted a session because she wanted to see, what is this girl
Yeah.
is doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But one of her friends had done it, so she loved me, still
Mm-hmm.
my client, and
Yeah.
that's how I got to her. Well, anyway, I did the mom, and
Mm-hmm.
as I'm working with her, she really liked it because she came back a few times afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But the first session, she says, I picked up an affair. She was
Mm-hmm.
having an affair. And I was bold. I asked, all the right sources, should I say something? And they said yes. And I'm like, real? In my mind, I'm like, really? You want
Yeah.
me to say? And I
Mm-hmm.
said it. I said, I sense that you're having a love affair with someone outside of your marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, no, I'm not. And I'm okay if people do that because I know
Mm-hmm.
that it's true. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay if you don't want to admit it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just saying it because I want to see if we're on the same page and how I ought to manage this healing, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the session, she says, okay, I have to confess, I am
Mm-hmm.
having an affair.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
She's probably surprised you saw it. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So the reason that had to happen was because then the healing would have gone differently if she's
Absolutely.
not admitting it versus admitting it.
Yeah, I think I was gonna say that did the healing work change because like at
Yes.
the beginning she was not, but then at the end she was. So
Yes.
what's the difference when
What's the
someone
difference?
actually admits what's going on?
It's been a long time, so I don't entirely remember exactly
Hmm.
what was the difference, except that when you're ready to admit something in your conscious mind, I can heal things in the unconscious mind too that
Right.
you don't even know about,
Hmm.
and I do that.
Hmm.
But when you're ready to admit something like that, then we shift the energy, and it moves everything that needs to be moved, so you can decide what your next step is. You're still in charge of everything,
Yes.
but if you're not admitting it, then it feels like not all of the energy is going to move yet,
It's kind
or
of
it's going to
you have
move
to deal with it
in
eventually.
parts or layers.
Yeah.
And so it's all, and it's up to you. You can decide what you want. So,
hmm Yeah. Wow. Wow. So that's wow. Okay. So let's talk about you being a medium, and can you, you saw one of the stories you talked about, you could perceive like an ancestor in a person's field, but can you perceive them directly? Like, so, like as a medium, kind of like, does that work
well,
like that for you? How does it work for you?
yeah, I don't put my shingle out as a medium. So if that pops up,
Mm-hmm.
I'll work with that because people do call me. For a lot of people call me for grieving, and
Mm-hmm.
they'll also call me when their house or their property has something on it that is disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm very good at that.
Mm-hmm.
I've always had this ability to see those on the other side,
Mm-hmm.
always. So it doesn't happen very often. There aren't that many per se ghosts that hang out.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell people the last place you're ever going to find a ghost is in a cemetery.
Yeah.
That's just a bunch of dust and bones.
Right.
I'll tell you where you find ghosts, hospitals,
Yeah, I can see
because
that.
there's a lot of distress and there's
Yeah,
a lot of
and
stress
that
there.
crossover.
Yeah.
Mhm,
And yeah, so you'll find more there, especially in the basement.
I
Um, but
mhm,
but my point is, it comes up when it needs to come up. Like, but I've had clients call me. Um, I'm remembering someone. This has been many years ago, but who called because her son had passed, and it was an accident,
mhm,
and she wanted to know more about the accident. But she also said, "I don't think he's passed.
mhm,
I can." She was very intuitive, so she could feel him. And
yeah,
sure enough, I went into the other, dimension, and I
mhm,
saw that he had not passed. He
mm,
was still. It was a car accident, and he was still wandering around the car accident.
mm,
And
mhm,
because when he died, he had a lot of emotion around something, and he wasn't aware that there was a big light right over there that he can walk through.
thank you, well,
He was just still in that emotion and
yep,
kind of like this.
mhm, mhm,
So I calmed him down, and the way I got him to go into the light was, he had a 3 or 4 year old daughter, and he loved her so dearly.
mhm,
And I said, if you go over here to this
mhm,
light, you're going to see her.
mhm,
You're going to get to talk to her.
mhm,
Um, and he, at first he didn't, he was like, no,
yeah,
I'm mad about what happened. I'm mad about what happened.
yeah,
And he was in the emotion. And slowly, slowly, we calmed him down, and he saw the light. And then
mhm,
and I usually will escort them, or walk behind them as they
mm,
go into the light. And he did it. And it was beautiful. And his mother called me the next day and said, "Oh my God, thank you." She was
mm,
like, "Thank you." And she still texts me on his birthday,
wow,
each year, and says, "Thank you." She says, "Thank you. I saw him. He was
wow,
enveloped in this golden light, and I saw him rising up."
yeah,
And I'm like, I'm glad, because yeah, where he was at was not a good place, and he could have stayed there for a long time. So
mhm,
my sometimes my job is to guide
mhm,
people, and I also do that. This is part of the way I was taught when I did some mediumship. I've always been a medium per se my whole life,
yeah,
but I actually went and got trained a little bit on it. And I also do work around accidents that happen around the
mhm,
world.
mhm,
There was a crash in Washington, D.C. airport. I think it's called Reagan International,
mhm, mhm,
where a Black Hawk helicopter hit
yeah,
an airplane.
mhm,
Yeah. So I worked with that. I was at my desk that night
mhm,
at the time that it happened. And I
mhm,
was just about to turn the computer off and get ready for bed. And I
mhm,
saw a picture of
mhm,
of it. And
yeah,
all of a sudden flashed right in front of me.
mm,
I was there. I
mhm,
was in the dark. Everything was dark.
mhm,
And I saw 8 people who
mhm,
did not pass. They
Wow.
were so shocked by what, because it was so instantaneous. It happened
Yeah.
really fast.
Mhm.
Most everybody went through the light. These
Mhm.
8 people did not.
Mhm.
And so my job was to help them get to the light. And I did. And
Mhm.
I helped, and I met with each one of them. They were, one was this Asian boy, and he was freaked out. He goes, "This can't be happening.
Yeah.
No." He was like screaming. He
Yeah.
couldn't have been more than 18 years old.
Yeah.
And he's screaming and
Mhm.
and freaked out. And I calmed him down. And I said, "Look," I said, "your friends are over there in that light. You
Mhm.
go that way and you're going to see everybody there."
Yeah.
And he did it. But he was still, it took a moment for him to
Yeah.
calm down. The next person was a mom. She's looking for her daughter.
Mhm.
And I said, "Your daughter's over there. So make
Mhm.
sure you go that way." And she went. They all went really well. But I memorized their faces as I
Mhm.
was talking to them. And the last one was a steward on the airplane.
Mhm.
And he comes up, he said, "I just had to make sure everybody got out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure everybody was taken care of." I
Yeah.
said, I said, "You did a great job."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
right into the light.
Right.
The next day, all the news is out about it.
Mhm.
I start looking for pictures of all these people's faces I remembered. I can
Yeah.
identify each one of who it was.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Wow.
and then the last one,
Yeah.
a, a childhood friend of my oldest daughter's
Mhm.
was a pilot for that airline.
Wow.
And he knew the last guy that I saw
Yeah.
on that was the steward that helped pass. So that's my work as a medium, and it's not work I do all the time, only when necessary.
Ye Yeah. That's funny because I was gonna ask you, these are like tremendous, like this information and stories, just about your work. But I was gonna ask you, like, just tell us a little bit more about the type of work that you do.
Well, I also have been doing a new kind of work in the last 3 years. Um, my clients call me the mystic, the seer, the oracle, the healer. I don't care what you call me. You can call me anything as long as I get the job done. I'm using all the tools to get the job done, right? My job is to uplift the consciousness of the world. And if I do that by helping one person heal, I even have people who their whole families come to me. And I have one family that's so funny. They'll come to me every September and say, "Hey, Mikki, can we get the yearly tune up so that everybody's good for the year?" And I'm like, "Sure." So, whatever I do. So what I do is my goal is to uplift consciousness for
Mhm.
millions of people around the world so that everybody has hope and optimism and knows that we're in the age of Aquarius. We're headed to a new earth that's going to be amazing. And I can already see parts of it, not all of it. And my job is to do that also. I'm doing a new kind of work in the last 3 years, um, earth grid work
Mhm.
and cosmic grid work. So the earth is covered in a series of grids.
Mhm.
And my job is to see where certain ones might need to be cut off, other ones may be corrupted or
Mhm.
short, too
Mhm.
long, too thin, too fat, too frayed, whatever is going on in that particular, and set the energy of that. So the energy shifting that I do in a human being, and I also do people's pets. They pay me the exact same amount to do their pets as to do the human. So I'll do dogs and cats, and I do spaces and houses to do that for the earth grids so that
Mhm.
they are at their most optimal, so that as we get closer to off planet beings coming into more contact with us, that there'll be a smooth way to do that. Because
Yeah.
some of them have been just really, and the humans have done it, but
Yeah.
so has off planet beings have done it too. So
Mhm.
yeah, so I'm doing earth and energy grid work, traveling around the world, doing that work. And that was a calling. I had no idea. No, I didn't consciously pick that.
Look at that. Yeah. Oh, wow. I
I
mean,
did
I
not.
yeah, everything you do is just so awesome. Mikki, this has just been really great. So always like to close with the same kind of question. The answer always carries a whole conversation, inside it. But, is there one thing you want every Black woman watching today to walk away knowing about her body, her lineage, about what she's carrying? So, what would you like to say?
So what I'd like to say is that every Black woman know that we are standing in a time of great transformation and
Hmm.
great spiritual wisdom. So we're in the age of Aquarius,
Hmm.
and I want to just talk about this with some what if questions. What if you have energies and skills that are truly mind blowing that you don't know about and they're just waiting to be remembered? What if you are source and creator energy and it is only that you've forgotten this and you're now slowly remembering it again and remembering it with the help of your ancestors and your guides? And what if your DNA is not just a blueprint, but it's a fractal antenna tuned to receive energy and information across timelines, across dimensions, across frequencies of consciousness? Is it unimaginable? And my guides told me to say this today. Is
Yeah,
it unimaginable that the texture and type of hair that Black women have acts as a special conduit
that's
to
right.
bring in a certain unique type of frequency and vibration into the body?
Mhm.
My task is to lead people back to their own divinity, clearly, efficiently, unapologetically, and to build community that allows this awakening to reach as many people as I can. Um, to reach far more people than I can while holding their individual hands. So don't get me wrong, I love holding hands, and I'll keep doing it because
Yeah.
it's my one-on-one work. But Black women and their ancestors in this country have sacrificed so much to grow into someone whom we can be proud of, someone
Mhm.
who is aligned, empowered, and authentically whole. So
That's right.
our lineage is much more powerful than you think. And here's my question to you: are you ready to remember?
Wow. Wow, that's so beautiful. So thank you, Mickey. I'm going to be sitting with that for a long time. This conversation has just been really great today. And I know people are really going to love it and absorb it. So how can our viewers connect with you? Like learn more about your work or book a session with you?
The best way, there's really only two ways. The best way is to go to my website, which is lifeinflowenergy.com,
Yeah.
or to send me an email at spreadingwonder at
Mhm.
gmail.com.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Mickey. Let's see. So make sure, guys, make sure you follow Mickey and all her links in the show notes and in the comments. And if this episode stirs something in you, go find her. The stirring is your body listening. It's talking. Listen to it. So and while you are in the comments, the pre-order link for my debut book, Ancestral Roots: Awakening the Ceiba Women for Health, Healing, and Wholeness, is pinned right there too. Everything Mickey shared today about what the body carries, what the ancestors passed down, and our lineage holds as both wound and medicine. That is the heart of this book. It releases May 8th, which you can pre order, and I want you to have it in your hands that day. So go grab a copy while you're thinking about it. And to our viewers, just thank you so much for joining us for season 3 of Uncovering Hidden Healing. We are exploring ancestral healing all season long, and every episode is building towards something really big. So, subscribe, turn on notifications, and don't miss what's coming. And mark your calendars. May 8th is a very special day. Something big is happening, and I want you to be there for all of it. And the details are coming soon. So, until next Sunday, trust your body. It has been trying to tell you something. And today, I hope you heard a little more of what it's been saying. Take good care, and we'll see you next time on Uncovering Hidden Healing.